they are who they are now, right? You can say by 9 and 10, you see their personality, you see their character. And I just wonder, and you just wonder, like, if I had done it differently in those first few years, what could have been different about them?
Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast for conscious, cycle-breaking parents ready to turn toddler tantrums into teachable moments. Hi, I'm Cara Terrell, a lifetime lover of littles, mom to 2 grown and flown girls, and an early childhood educator. Through the show, I teach you my collaborative parenting methodology for nurturing your little human's mind, body, and spirit. Because how you connect and collaborate in the first 5 years is how you raise happy, healthy kids who grow into the best version of themselves and find true success in school and life. Do you ever feel like motherhood is making you lose your mind? You're not alone. My guest today, Dena Farash, is here to talk to you about when she encountered this reality with kids who were 18-ish months apart. And it's a really powerful story. Dena's the founder of Dena Does Digital, a positive discipline parent educator, a public speaker, author, and successful online entrepreneur who has found a unique way of sharing how to thrive in motherhood. And she's going to talk today about the distinction between caregiving and motherhood. She's going to tell you her story in some really vulnerable ways. So if this has been feeling hard for you lately with your toddlers, settle in and get ready to feel aligned with someone who has been there and done that. Dena, welcome to the show. You and I have connected on so many different levels over the last couple years. I cannot wait to explore this idea with you that motherhood made you lose your mind.
And that it did. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to see how the conversation unfolds.
Absolutely. So you and I met in kind of a unique way in that we were both headed to a conference and we were both going to present and we were both needing housing and decided to house together. And I learned so much about you in those couple days that we got to spend together and about the journey that you had taken to arrive at being the mom who you wanted to be and just how challenging that was for you. Can you share, just start there? Like what was this whole experience for you?
My experience with motherhood in general, I guess the best way to put it was that it was and it continues to be an unraveling.
Yes. Oh, what a great word. So how old are your kids?
My children are 10, 9, and 6 right now.
So you have been on this journey of motherhood for a decade.
Yep, a little bit over. My oldest is about to be 11. Yep.
And was it with your first that everything internally just kind of combusted and you said, wow, I am, as an individual, as a human, I'm unprepared, or did it come later?
Yeah, so for me, it was the birth of my second. My oldest 2 are 18 and a half months apart.
Woo.
And without a doubt, my toughest transition in motherhood was his birth and adjusting to what I felt like at the time was being stuck as a mom. It didn't necessarily feel that way with my first. My first, it was exciting and everything was brand new and I had a whole new life. And what was I going to do for work? I didn't want to go back to my full-time job. And everything was just like eyes wide open and my heart was so full. And then when my second came along, I had 2 babies at the same time. I had to really step into this brand new role, this brand new identity. And the weight of that all just took me down.
Yeah. 18 months apart is no joke.
It was hard.
You're right. It is. I mean, 2 under 2 is where you start to realize that they each have their own unique being and personality and triggers and wants and needs and desires. And there's only one of you.
Right. And not only is there only one of me, I was the solution for all of those things. And it didn't matter what time of day it was or what the need was. I was the magic fix. And so that left very little room for me to feel like me, for me to have space, for me to have time, for me to have the mental wherewithal to give them all of the things that I was giving them from like a complete state of depletion.
So here you are, a couple years into this journey, and that implosion kind of takes place. And that's the lose your mind part that you talk about. But what did you realize was actually happening on the other side of that?
Oh, so many things. So many things. I mean, it's an unraveling, but the beauty in the unraveling is that it becomes a becoming, right? So what I recognized not very early on, really I recognized through losing my mind was that I could do this with much more intention.
Mm.
And when I chose that mindset, I was able to do it, putting my own self aside. And I won't say my own self, I'll say my own older dysregulated self aside, and choosing to parent with much more intention than came natural. Because what came natural to me when I was pressed and when I was squeezed was my trauma. It was my upbringing. It was all of my unresolved emotional issues. That was what was naturally coming to the surface when I was pressed by motherhood, right? Like the vice of motherhood. And so through it, the journey that I took was the opportunity to be more intentional.
Wow. Now, that's a really nice sentence. But I know how hard it is to say one thing and then try to actually do and implement that. Did you feel you're a doer? I know you, right? When you choose a path, when you choose a task, like you dive in and you do. So
Mm-hmm.
did you feel like, okay, I've actually just got to disengage, reparent myself, get myself put together before I continue this journey? Although that's not possible because they were still there needing things of you. Or were you like, I can do this at the same time?
Yeah, I wish I could say it was that conscious, but it wasn't. While I was much more intentional, I still needed support and I still needed help. And I couldn't go back to the way I was parented or the way that I was parenting for that support. And so I feel like this was even before parent coaching was a hot button item, but I just started to seek out help. So the way I approach life in general is if I don't know something and I want to get better at it, I study it, right? And so I had to really not only seek out support, and I worked one-on-one with a fantastic, fantastic parenting coach who I know that you know, and she changed my life both personally and professionally in many ways. So I was able to reach out to her for support, but I also started studying parenting, right? Because we joke, we love to joke around as moms, like it doesn't come with a book. It really doesn't. It comes with the internet nowadays, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how sensitive you are and the places of comparison and judgment you get stuck in by the constant scroll. But it really doesn't come with a book. And so I needed to start to learn how to parent without losing my mind all the time, number one, and how to become a mother without losing myself.
I love how you talk. It's just it's so clear. And
Thank
that's
you.
the intention part. Like, in order to take action around that, you have to be clear. If you're willing to step into kind of a vulnerable place, can you tell us what it looked like and sounded like when you did lose your mind in motherhood?
Yeah. I mean, I've done it all, but the thing that comes to mind first is the moments I tried to quit, right? The moments at like 2 a.m. when my son, my second, needed me because he was still just a newborn, and my 1.5-year-old needed me, and everybody was still nursing, by the way, right? And my husband was working full time, and I just had no space. And I just remember getting up in the middle of the night, both kids in bed, screaming, crying, looking at my husband who's snoring, kicking him in the back and screaming, Mike, I quit. I quit. I threw out some F-bombs, but I quit. And then I stormed out of the bedroom, left him with two crying babies, and I sat on the couch. And I tried to sleep on the couch, right? As both of my children were hysterically crying in my bedroom. And I just remember understanding, even though I was resistant to it, but understanding in that moment that I was the only solution, right? I really kind of left my husband high and dry. There was no quitting. I was the only solution. And so the only way I could approach this was to get back up, take a deep breath, even though that wasn't anything I wanted to do at the time, and go back in and solve the problems, my children's problems first, right? I had to solve their immediate problems first. And I would joke, even at that time in my life, I was constantly playing a game of who was crying. Somebody's always crying. Who is crying? What can I do? Right? So I have to solve that immediate need for my babies first. And then I have to solve this deep-rooted issue of, why am I so miserable? Why am I clinging to my own past where I wasn't necessarily happy? And then in the unraveling of all of those things, what I recognized is that I was missing out. I was so caught up in being overwhelmed that I was missing out in the beauty of my life, in the blessing of my life, right? The fact that I had two healthy children, the fact that I had a husband who was willing to get up and go to work, even on the days that he didn't feel his best, so that he could provide for our family. I was so caught up in the emotions that kept me feeling down that I missed out on the moments to appreciate my biggest blessings.
Yeah. Quick question. Do you subscribe to the Core 4 Connector? That is our weekly newsletter. Drops into your inbox every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just a great way to start the week. Reconnect with the parent, the educator, the nanny, the adult you want to be in your toddler's life. It's easy, quick, and free to sign up. Just use the link in the show notes and you will get all the links that are from the last week's podcasts, just in case they got by you. And you say, oh, that's the one I wanted to listen to. Right. Easy, efficient. That's my goal, is to always provide value for you while keeping your life as simple as possible. Sign up for the Core 4 Connector today. I think about that all the time. Why do we choose to become parents? And the answer, if you ask anybody, especially while they're still pregnant, right? Because they're full of all those beautiful hopes and dreams, and the realities haven't really sunk in yet, is they will tell you, I can't wait. I can't wait for those joy-filled moments, the smiles, the cuddles, the giggles, the hugs. They'll talk about building the relationship with their kids. And very often that gets lost when we're just drowning in all the tasks and having to respond quickly to their long list of needs. And that's what it sounds like was happening for you. So you realized at one point, you had a little epiphany, a little aha moment. This is not what I signed on for. I deserve some joy in parenting. Then what happened?
Yeah, well, if it's okay with you, I'm going to make a really sharp left here, because I was not that pregnant woman that was like, I can't wait for the snuggles and the hugs.
Ooh.
I still believe this to this day, and I'm so grateful my life didn't turn out this way, but I still believe that I would have been okay just working for the rest of my life. God had other plans for our family, right? But I would have absolutely been okay just being a career woman and taking myself to whatever level, whatever place I could have gone. And so that is not how our family developed. That is not and thank goodness that was again, intentional from God, because if it were up to me, I would not have necessarily chosen this path, especially having my kids so close in age, my oldest too. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle for me because I missed so much of this perceived sense of freedom I thought I had before I had kids, right? And then all of a sudden I'm in it, and I knew, and I still know to this day, I would not have necessarily consciously chosen this, but it was given to me as a gift that I couldn't see, right? And so I had to get really curious, because when I did recognize, like, oh my gosh, and this is baseline level, when I did recognize I have healthy children. Like, I have healthy children, and the world doesn't get any better than that. That is our biggest blessing, right? And I missed out on all of it because I was so stuck in this place of, I wouldn't have chosen this. That was just my reality. And still to this day, right? And so I had to become like an investigator and say, okay, well, where can I find the joy? Where can I find the joy? Because this is a blessing, this is a gift, and I'm missing it, and I know I'm missing it, and one day I'm going to regret it. Right. And so where can I find the joy, and how can I make this more pleasant for my children, for my husband, and for me, because I deserve it. And so what I recognized in this journey, in this curious place, is that I probably was never really happy my whole life. It was probably just a lot of going through the motions and doing what I thought I was supposed to do and never actually figuring out who I was and how to do that on purpose. And so motherhood, in the midst of like caring for everybody else and solving the needs and being the solution to everybody's problems, my husband included, I then had to figure out for the first time who I was and how to be happy. And this really didn't come until motherhood pushed it all to the surface.
Oh, wow. I mean, talk about many layers of work happening all at once, being stripped away and then having intentionally to put pieces back together that still felt right and let go of all the ones that didn't. What an incredible journey. So you are now many, many more years into this. When those little pockets of joy and those little moments of peace inside just being with your kids started to happen, how did you recognize them?
I think so many of us are connected digitally, right? And so we read stories about parenting and motherhood even when we don't want to. And one of the things that I always come across are stories of, the older lady at the grocery store that looks at you with your hand full and you haven't showered in 4 days. And she's like, you're going to miss it one day, honey. And the innate parts of us in the moment want to be like, am I really going to miss it? But I can say I'm finally at those pieces in my life and those places in my life where I can look at my kids laughing and we can go on a family vacation and I can literally truly feel from the inside out, these are the best moments of my life. This is what it's all about. And so I just try to hold on to those and recognize those as much as I can. My oldest is heading into the preteen teenage years. And so I know I don't have that much time left. She's 10. At best, I have another 8 years left. I'm already at the 50-60% mark of the time that I get her to be with me. And I'm definitely closer to the place with her in particular where my opinion isn't going to matter as much anymore really soon. And it's sooner than I am prepared for. And so now I can approach parenting with 2 feet on the ground and really hold on to it and harness it and say, this is it. These are the moments through the tough parts, through the mornings that are stressful, through the go of, modern lifestyle. These are the moments that matter.
Mm-hmm. And what I'm hearing now, I mean, you're clearly a very different person. So you have done the work of who do I want to be? And how do I put that into practice throughout my days, not just with your kids, but with all the relationships and all the people around you. And here at Core 4 Parenting, that is like the 2-pronged core system, right? Who we are, and then who we are, it informs how we do what we do. And so now you have this little, not so little actually, family. But let's just talk about your 10-year-old, right? Because she is who she is. And her job over the next few years is to practice autonomy. And your job, with safety reasons in mind, is to let her and see if those really strong, beautiful morals and core values and connection pieces that you worked so hard to reinvent that relationship, she's now ready to take out into the world and apply to the relationships that she has. And it really is, as a mom of adult kids, I can just tell you, those pockets that you just talked about are really special. This place that you're headed, it will just blow your mind with how much joy a heart can hold watching a human that we raised go be amazing on their own.
That's awesome. I'm in no rush to get there, but I appreciate you sharing that. Because motherhood is it's so unique where it opens your heart with so much love and pride and joy. And then it breaks your heart into a million pieces with each transition, right? Even when I reflect on when my oldest 2 were a lot younger, I can't go back, Mm-hmm. And so I think about the moments a lot where I wasn't my best self and I know I can't go back. and they are who they are now, right? You can say by 9 and 10, you see their personality, you see their character. And I just wonder, and you just wonder, like, if I had done it differently in those first few years, what could have been different about them? So motherhood is just such a unique role that we play, right? And I think if we do it successfully, it doesn't become our whole identity, but it becomes the places of joy and pride and love and unconditional love that we need and that we get to experience as moms.
And Dena, I just want to say that if you're capable of taking what you just said off your worry list, you have permission to, because they don't hold on to those things the way we do.
Yeah.
Those small, high quality, high engaged moments of connectedness, that's what they're seeking and that's what they hold on to. And the other pieces, their long-term memory, it discards. So you were exactly the right mom for those kids in that moment where you were, that you couldn't have done better. Therefore, you've got to let that go. And we're just going to move forward. And you have done an incredible job doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's true, right? I was at my capacity and I was doing my best in those moments. But it's interesting you say that, because to my second born, my son, I tell him all the time that he is my greatest gift, because without a doubt, he was the catalyst for all of my growth, right? If he didn't come along exactly when he did, then I wouldn't have experienced some of the strain and the overwhelm and the turmoil that I did.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have been able to, or I wouldn't have been able to maybe so early on, figure out that I could do it a different way, be more conscious, be more intentional, right? Hold on and savor to those moments of connection. And I'm not a perfect parent. I absolutely have my moments where that doesn't happen, right?
Same.
But I do my best now with a much more valiant effort than I ever did before.
Yeah. And they know it. They get that. So something that I really wanted to make sure we had space and time for in this episode is when you say that caregiving is separate from motherhood. And when I hear that, when a lot of people hear that, they might be like, oh, you mean self-care, make sure you take care of yourself. But you mean something different.
I do. Yeah. And I want to give credit to where I've heard this first. This came from a woman named Freckled Hen, and you can find her over on Instagram. She's a mom of 6, I think. But what she stresses, and which I love, is that motherhood is not hard. Motherhood is the part that is beautiful, right? That's the open heart, it's the pride, it's the joy, all of the wonderful things that we spoke about. It's the opportunity to have a relationship with the most important people in our lives. And it's an opportunity to connect more deeply than we ever have with another human being. Motherhood is beautiful. Caregiving is so hard.
Yes.
It is so hard. And when we can, in those moments, in those brief moments where we can make that distinction, we can change our narrative. And the narrative doesn't become motherhood sucks, motherhood is overwhelming. No, motherhood is beautiful. But making 3 meals a day every single day for 365 days a year, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. Cleaning a house after 5 people, doing the laundry for 5 people, scrubbing the toilets for 5 people. It's a lot. That's hard. That is hard, being woken up all throughout the night because you're the primary source of comfort and support. That's difficult, right? Motherhood is beautiful. The caregiving is a hard part that comes along with the most beautiful gift we've ever received.
Yes. Oh, what an important distinction. And I also feel like it's almost like a game of whack-a-mole, because some days you don't know who you're caregiving for, right? They come down the stairs and they're just like super calm and cool and collected and regulated. And you're like, wow, I could have that morning every day. Thanks. And then they come down the stairs the next day and it's like the world has just been turned over for them and they can't keep their cool to save their life. So
yeah. And you bring up an interesting point, and I'm just going to add to that, if I may. Sometimes you have to be the caregiver for yourself too.
Yeah.
And that is very challenging too, because life moves very fast these days. If I can quote the fantastic Ferris Bueller, life moves very quickly. And as you get older and as you step into your 40s and all of a sudden you're responsible for aging parents and growing kids at the same time, you have to recognize those moments to care for yourself. And I don't know about you, but for me, that typically looks like rest and doing nothing. And there is nothing harder these days than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, then there's just a layer of guilt that often comes along with the nothingness. And we've got to put up a shield on that. Say, no, thank you. This is what I need in order to be my best self for me and for them.
Right. I actually don't need to clean all of the windows in my house today.
Not today. No. Well, Dena, you've been at this for a while, and I know that you have created an incredible space, the Mindful Mom Revolution. I know that you were, last time I talked to you, working on a book. So I'd love to hear any updates or resources that you might have for listeners to go explore.
I can point you in the direction of some fantastic people that I follow and I love right now. My work shifts as my world shifts. So I am in the business of supporting other moms in business at the moment. And it's a wonderful, wonderful way for me to give back without feeling the pressure of being a forward-facing personality. But what I recommend is that people reach out to you and speak with you. You were instrumental in helping me work through so many things, especially with my youngest at the time that we met. I think there are some fantastic resources online for moms to learn how to practice self-compassion first and learn how to show up for themselves and love themselves so that they can be better versions of themselves while raising the best versions of their kids. And I think there's a lot of garbage out there. And so it's up to you really to use your own discernment and know when you're getting caught in comparison and judgment, when you need to place boundaries on the scroll and the Instagram, and when you need to really just dial down and focus on being a more intentional parent and doing nothing for yourself.
Amazing. Wow. Well, I'm really grateful to people like you who have done the work, done the research, done the implementation, held space for others to do it, and are now saying there's lots of people out there who can, but pick wisely.
Yes.
and I totally understand how challenging it can be to make that decision. So I talk about it like interviewing for therapists. Please don't just pick the first one that comes along. Go see or talk to face-to-face or face to a virtual face many and find your authentic energy match. And that is the only way that you are actually going to make the transformation and the changes that you want to make.
Yeah. I have this rule for myself, especially in the world of online business, and that's I will never work with somebody who isn't a mom, because I think there is a point of relation that we all have to come from, and motherhood levels the playing field if and only if you can work with somebody who acknowledges some of the things that we talked about today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And if there ever is another something that pops up for you that you feel you're ready to add value to the space, I would love to support you by bringing you back on or promoting it, whatever works for you.
I appreciate it. The next leg of my book will be coming out in just a year or two. The first one is on the shelf. It didn't quite feel like a story that I wanted my kids to read one day.
I totally respect that. Interestingly, in the world of books, I was just told this. You will probably publish more than one book in your lifetime, and you will never, ever be satisfied with any of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a body of work that you're creating, but only you know if it's work that is to sit on the shelf or to be in people's hands.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So good. Well, thank you, my friend, for sharing who you are and your journey with us. I know there's a lot of people out there that were nodding along and saying, I feel seen and I feel understood, and it's okay that I'm not living up to what the world says I should every day.
That's what it's all about. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, everybody, you know what to do. We are a toddler tribe, and we work together to stay mindful and proactive as we transform the toddler years.